Turning now to a subject top of mind for many. Today is the final day of the Biden administration's one-year grace period for missed student loan payments. Here to help with what student loan borrowers need to know going forward is student loan expert Mark Kantrowitz. Mark is the author of the book, How to Appeal for More College Financial Aid. So Mark, what does the end of this pandemic-era grace period ultimately mean for borrowers?
Well, borrowers, about 6.7 million borrowers who took advantage of the 12-month on-ramp will now have to start making payments on their loans. There are a few ways they could continue implementing a payment pause, but interest accrues and those options are limited.
And how many student loan borrowers took advantage of this on-ramp period, and what does that potentially mean now that it's over?
So a total of 6.7 million borrowers took advantage of it. And the on-ramp was essentially a set of retroactive 90-day forbearances. So every 90 days, they would see if someone hadn't made a payment. If so, they put them into a forbearance where interest would accrue, but no payments were due. Now that they're going to have to start making payments. There are options like standard 10-year repayment, extended repayment, and graduated repayment, but the income-driven repayment plans are tied up in a lawsuit and may not be available. So they're going to have to start making payments, typically a few $100s a month for the average student loan.
You talked about some of those repayment options, but is there an option to just not pay at this point to halt some of those repayments? And if so, is that something you would even recommend?
So there are deferments and forbearances, which are available up to a maximum of 3 years in 1-year increments. Interest may continue to accrue during a deferment or forbearance. So this is just digging yourself into a deeper hole. If you can afford to make the payments, you should, because eventually you'll need to pay off the debt. And the longer you delay it, the more it's going to cost you.
And, there have been a lot of stops and starts with Biden's student loan forgiveness plan. What's the current state of play, and how do you see it all playing out as we near closer to that November election?
So there are two main sets of pending lawsuits. One is against the SAVE repayment plan, which is an income-driven repayment plan that replaced the repay plan. The other is Plan B for broad student loan forgiveness. Even though the final rule hasn't yet been published, a stay was issued to prevent the Biden administration from forgiving the loans under that broad student loan forgiveness, because there was some word that maybe they were going to be very aggressive in forgiving the loans immediately upon publication of the final rule.
And
And both of these cases are still going on.
So both of them still going on, that TBD factor. What have we heard so far from the Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris about student loan forgiveness? And do you expect to hear more from her as we near closer to November?
Well, she supports student loan forgiveness and making college more affordable. So it is a factor that differentiates between the two political candidates. Generally speaking, Republicans oppose loan forgiveness, whereas Democrats support loan forgiveness. And if you look at Project 2025, it proposes getting rid of the public service loan forgiveness plan that has existed for many years.
And do you expect Donald Trump to speak more on student loan forgiveness, or is that an area that he's sort of avoided?
Well, so far he hasn't spoken about it very much at all. His focus has been more on the economy and inflation and the border wall, and less on social programs like student loan forgiveness and Social Security and Medicaid.
Well, a lot of Americans will be looking to that November election, especially when it comes to the state of play for student loans. Mark Kantrowitz, student loan expert and author of How to Appeal for More College Financial Aid. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.